T.
Are they
We
both
love
attached to each
Spotted
other?
And we
Yes.
love
Okay.
California
Yeah,
Tiger
there you go.
Salamanders.
Yes, we do.
That's on the record now.
And we
Okay,
love Carl Sador's mama.
how's she doing?
She's fine. She's
Good,
fine.
good. All
She'll
right,
probably call me 3 times during this next meeting.
of course.
That's so funny. I can't walk. Well, it hurt when I walk. That's so funny.
That's so true. though.
Makes one of us.
I
All
can't,
right.
I can't walk either half the time, but
We don't have enough stress in our lives.
no, we don't. No, we don't. All right. What, are you ready, sir? Wait, let's see, what do we only have 3 here?
We have 3. That is not, and is Michael Laredo online? Okay, Michael Laredo is online. Our general counsel is joining us remotely from an.
I am, yes, and I am here.
So we can do that. We do not, Michael, we only have 3 of the 6 present at this point, but we can meet as a committee of the.
That is correct. You can begin the meeting as a committee of the whole. You just cannot take action.
I do not believe we have
We
any
don't.
action items on this
We don't.
agenda. We're receiving
It's all
some updates.
information.
Yeah.
All informational.
Well, approving the minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Besides approving the
Oh.
minutes, which
That can wait.
Has anyone called? That they were not
I've
gonna
been
make it?
wrapped up with other meetings this morning, so let's see.
I just
No
heard,
texts.
I heard a door.
Bob Delves called and said he was not going to make it from Carmel by the Sea. That is the only,
Okay,
that's the only communication that I've received.
all right. Well, then, let's just,
Move on as a
Just-
committee of the whole.
that's it.
All right.
Okay. All right, good morning, everyone. This is the Board Operations Performance Committee. Today is Monday, April the 14th. And we are meeting as a committee on the large committee because we do not have enough people today. So we are going to skip the consent agenda at this time. Is that all right, Carl?
Yeah, we could do public matters not on the agenda, though.
Okay, all right, so public comments on matters not on the agenda. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak at this time? There's no one inside the room. How about on
I
Zoom?
don't see anyone on Zoom with their hand raised.
Okay, so we don't have anyone on public comments, so I will close public comments at this time and move on. Again, we will skip item number 3.1 at this time and move on to action items. 4.1, review of operations performance, and that would be Mr. Sador.
Yes, thank you, Chair. In your packet, you every month receive a monthly report on MST's performance. And since, well, starting with the Better Bus Network, but even dating prior to that, Better Bus Network started in December of 2022. We've seen significant growth, oftentimes double-digit growth on a month comparing to the previous year's month for that period until the month that we're reviewing this month is we're looking at February's results, and we had less than a 1% increase. So staff is looking into what may have occurred there. Have we achieved all the benefits of the Better Bus Network, or was there something else occurring? I looked at things that generally affect ridership. Most importantly is weather. When we have significantly more rain, especially on weekdays, that didn't seem to be an impact. We look at the composition of the month. Are there more weekdays than weekends? Now, last February was a leap year, so there was one more weekday, but that didn't necessarily account for a whole lot that I could see, although that's part of it. Without just anecdotally, we'll just say that I don't have any evidence of this other than February was the month where we first started hearing reports, whether accurate or not, about ice activity in King City, and we were getting a lot of calls I do know anecdotally, people who go to swap meets and things like that have seen just decreased numbers of people. So I am personally wondering if that in February, if that activity resulted in people staying home and maybe being afraid to ride the bus. I know we were getting calls, even my own employees were asking about what will happen on our buses this in February. Now, we haven't seen any activity that I'm aware of since February, so we'll continue to monitor March and April to see if that comes back. I'm trying not to, I don't want to be political in my analysis.
Leave that to us.
That's fine, exactly. All I'm saying is
I
that
don't
we had,
usually
we had
I
an
don't wanna be
we had an
political
unexpected significant drop in growth that occurred at the same time as these announcements of ICE activity occurred in King City. And I don't even know what actually happened or didn't happen. You saw some things in the newspaper. I don't know. I know that we had a lot of our own employees were concerned, and I know we had an increase in calls, and we started putting out the county's information that they have. We put it on our buses, and we have it available at our locations, the little red cards. Other than that, we continue to perform well. Unless there are any particular questions, I can answer that. That was the most significant thing in the operations performance that I wanted to note, as we saw that large. It was still an increase. The increase just
Wasn't as high.
was not as high as it had been,
Mhm.
and we're going to continue to monitor that, especially as the spring and the labor force comes back. We hope they do, comes back to the area, because that is a big driver of ridership in our spring, summer, and early fall. So February is, a difficult month for us to track because we don't have our whole community here. Anyway, that's all I had to say on performance. It's just it's of interest. I'm not certain that it's of concern yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
still early.
Still early,
Yeah.
and we'll see what happens. And then there was a notice came out last week we got from the Farm Bureau about perhaps some relief from the administration with regard to farm workers in our area. So maybe things will resolve themselves there.
What does that mean?
Basically what it stated was that what the administration was asking was that if the agricultural companies would vouch for their workers, that might result in, a little leniency or not as much focus on those workers and everything that's happening.
Wow.
So there was a little video that came out along with it. I can forward that to you if you haven't seen it. I believe it came
I
from
would like to see it.
Growers or Shippers. Was it Growers or Shippers or Farm Bureau, Michelle? It came from Growers and Shippers. So Chris Valadez, if you have a relationship with him, or I will forward that to you.
I'd like to see it too.
I will get that out to the
Okay,
board.
great.
That concludes what I have as far as an operation, but there is a full report in your packet. If something has drawn your attention, please let me know.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes, sir.
just on what Mr. Sidorik is talking about, I think more than anything, it's fear. You can give people all the great information,
Yeah.
factual information, but if you're afraid to be separated from your family, it doesn't matter what we say.
Yeah.
What I do appreciate, I think the growers, the people, the investment here in Salinas Valley has a lot to do keeping immigration away from here.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, but I did hear some good stuff that we're seeing several people coming back from Yuma, which is a positive.
Yeah,
So that's already happening.
good. That is that's what we're hoping. That's what we're hoping to hear, because that does impact our ridership, and then ridership impacts our revenue and everything else. So
Good, thank you.
Agreed, and I think a lot of the cities, I know our city, Soledad, King City also has had town halls or has had meetings regarding what would happen, and that our police, in our community, our police is not checking immigration status or anything like that. So, we're working with the community, and hoping everything will work out okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, any other comments or questions? No? Okay, let's move on then to item number 4.2, receive presentation from First Public Hydrogen Authority. I'm really looking forward to this one.
Good, good. Welcome. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Norm Tuitavuki, the
And
Chief
it's
Operating
for
Officer.
Norm.
I am excited to introduce to you Alexis Marino. She's from First Republic, from Southern California. She's going to be giving you all a presentation on what the Joint Powers Authority is doing and how we may consider as an agency to join that. As you know, the ICT regulation, the Innovative Clean Transit Regulation, requires MST to transition to zero emission buses fully by 2040. The last year that we can purchase a diesel internal combustion engine powered bus is 2028, so 3 years away, just 3 short years away. Anyways, in a previous meeting at the board of directors, they asked for more information on hydrogen. They want to be educated. They want to make sure that we're up to speed and that we understand what's happening with the technology. As a result of that, I have these people here to give us a presentation. And one last thing to note, at the end of this year, MST will have 18 battery electric buses on hand across our system, and that'll make up about 10% of our fleet. And then in addition to that, we've got 2 hydrogen related activities that we're currently involved in. Number one is we are actively retrofitting the garage here in Monterey so that we can work on fuel cell electric buses. And then later on this month, probably within the next couple of weeks, we're going to be releasing an RFP looking for a firm to help us do the same thing in King City and also help us prepare for hydrogen fueling. That doesn't mean that we're going to undertake hydrogen, within a year or even 5 years, maybe not even be for 10 years, but it is something that we have to prepare for. So with that, I'll turn it over to Alexis Marino.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. I have with me Paul Wang, who's also part of First Public Hydrogen. And together this morning, we will present to you on what we're doing, the significance, and where we hope to go from here. I'll invite Paul up to introduce himself.
Hi, good morning. We've decided to tag team this presentation, so I will be tackling the first seven slides, and then Alexis will end it
Paul,
with
I
the.
think you can lift up
Oh,
a little bit on that. Yeah,
Yeah,
there
and
you
if
go.
you speak, we have folks monitoring,
Right.
and you shouldn't have to touch that.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this okay?
That's fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't touch that.
Sorry.
Don't touch this.
My IT team out there tackling you here.
Yeah.
Apologies to everyone in this room and on Zoom. So good morning, esteemed members of the MST BOPC. My name is Paul Wang, and I'm a project coordinator here at First Public Hydrogen, and I'm thrilled to be back in Monterey. I haven't been here since I worked in Aaron Rodgers' camp at the AT&T Pebble Beach
Oh my
Pro-Am. And just yesterday, I had the pleasure of visiting and checking out the National Steinbeck Center in downtown Salinas. As an English major and a lifelong admirer of John Steinbeck, revisiting his work reminded me of the profound impact literature had on my past and passion. And today I'm here with my director Alexis to discuss another passion of mine, as well as hers, that we believe holds transformative potential for your operations and our communities. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to introduce First Public Hydrogen Authority, or FPH2 for short. We are America's first public municipal hydrogen utility, formed through a joint powers authority between our city of Lancaster and the city of industry. FPH2 is uniquely positioned to bridge the long-standing gap between hydrogen producers and our diverse public and private consumers. Our mission is clear, which is to foster a transparent, affordable, and sustainable hydrogen economy. Next. The hydrogen market today faces a classic dilemma, the proverbial chicken and egg scenario. Without a robust supply, there's hesitation to buy, and without guaranteed demand, there's hesitation to produce. This cyclical problem has stifled growth and innovation within the space. Next. Currently, potential hydrogen producers are wary of entering a market where buyers are few and far between. Meanwhile, potential off-takers hesitate, discouraged by the insufficient supply and the uncertain reliability and affordability of hydrogen fuel. This imbalance hinders both the demand and supply sides from making the necessary commitments to have the market where we really want it to be. Next. So we at FPH2 recognize these pressing challenges that hinder growth. The disconnect between the production of hydrogen and its utilization. So we believe that our role as a municipal utility equips us to tackle these issues head on. And we will act as a market maker, not just a hydrogen supplier, but the key that unlocks the entire ecosystem. Next. So hydrogen will never be truly cost effective unless we build it at scale. But off-takers can't individually support full-scale production. And that's where we come in. FPH2 will stand in the middle, group demand across multiple off-takers, and optimize delivery routes, making hydrogen available at a price point that makes sense for everyone. Just for your awareness, we had an RFI out with just a little bit over 20 vendors that had applied. And out of those, we selected 9 and got some indicative pricing. We received that range from $4 to $9 per kilogram at the gate. The RFI was primarily to inform the structure and help shape our upcoming RFP, which we are set to release on Tuesday, the 22nd. This RFP aims to secure real binding pricing that will lead us into contractual agreements. Next. So a single hydrogen delivery might cost you $30 per kilogram if going just one location, but when optimized across multiple cities and private sector participants, that price could drop to $6 per kilogram. That's where First Public Hydrogen enables competitive pricing that accelerates adoption. Next. We are an official partner of the Alliance for Renewable Clean Hydrogen Energy Systems, or ARCHES for short, which is the clean hydrogen hub here in California funded by the DOE. And we work collaboratively on ecosystem development and co-marketing. While we work closely with ARCHES, we're not limited to ARCHES-funded projects. Our network is expanding rapidly, and we are engaging with new producers and new off-takers across the state. Hydrogen is happening now, and we're ensuring the infrastructure is in place to make it work.
So First Public truly saw a problem. It's a municipal utility. It really was the city of Lancaster and the city of industry coming together to form the JPA, very similar to the JPA you have with the cities. We saw a number of benefits. One, answering the big question of how do we implement hydrogen? How do we bring in these producers into our cities, as well as the offtake, the users, the transit authorities to actually be able to use the hydrogen and make this work in an ecosystem where we're not getting ripped off, paying $30 per kilogram from some of these larger agencies. And so we came together to form First Public Hydrogen back at the beginning of the year. Our first board meeting was in January, and really are setting to tackle these problems. Yes, we are partnered with ARCHES, and are working with them as the market starter. However, we also know that ARCHES has a big question mark around it. Actually, all of the federal funding around hydrogen has a big question mark around it. The beauty of working at a local level and working with local municipalities and agencies is that we can work outside of the dependency on federal government. So First Public Hydrogen, while partnered with Arches, is not dependent on them, nor are we dependent on any federal funding. It truly is an effort of bringing together use and bringing together producers to create an ecosystem that works, that we are not, losing to some of the big guys. Next slide, please. So we have an industry-led board. We do have the mayor of Lancaster, who has a long history in the clean energy space, Newell Ruggles from the City of Industry, Bob Hertzberg, Aura Vasquez, Jack Brower, Tanya Peacock. They all represent both industry leaders, academia, environmentalists, and local agencies. Next slide, please. So the big question is, why join? Why are we here today? Well, for producers or anyone that you have that may be looking to produce, we're looking to secure those long-term contracts. We're de-risking the market for them by having one secured buyer, as well as also allowing for large-scale production to really bring down the price. Next slide, please. And for off-takers, what does it actually mean to join? Why be a part of this? Well, first off, you have a centralized point of communication. We are working up and down the state to find out what production is happening everywhere, to find out what kind of funding is coming in place, to really be that central hub to be able to say, when you're ready to have hydrogen buses online, we'll be there to be able to provide pricing and a way forward. In addition to competitive pricing, you will also be given a seat on our advisory board. Our advisory board, although not the governing board, really does shape and mold what direction we need to go in and what the needs are going to look like. This also means tailored procurement. So instead of your staff spending time doing RFPs and RFIs and trying to figure out how to make this work, our team will have already completed that for you, and you will have a solution right out the gate to be able to address your needs. I couldn't also help but notice in the update that you're also having electric bus fleets. That's something that we saw firsthand in Lancaster with Antelope Valley Transit Authority. We were the first all-electric bus fleet. And I can tell you that while it's been a significant milestone, it hasn't come without its own problems. And that also relates to charging and time of use and the cost of electricity that we know is going to continue to go up. As we see things like AI come online and energy usage in electric vehicles, we know one thing certain, that energy costs are going to go up and the grid cannot sustain all of the new energy that's coming in. And so one other reason that Lancaster really did look at hydrogen and why it was so significant for Lancaster and industry is, having been in the clean energy space for so long, we saw the pitfalls, we saw where electrification falls short, and hydrogen really did fill a lot of those gaps for us. Now, the biggest problem for us was hydrogen is not cost effective. The price of the fuel was really high. The cost of the technology was really high. The only way that we saw to bring that down is to do it at scale. And the only way we can do it at scale is to bring in everyone together to be able to do that. Next slide, please. So this is a quick checklist of how to join and the steps that it takes to be a part of the network. I think what's critical and important here is that if you are to join First Public Hydrogen, one, it carries no liability. We have that very clearly outlined in our bylaws. We're happy to sit down with our general counsel and your general counsel. And that was extremely important to us because we want to make the barrier to entry as low as possible. So it carries no liability. There's also no obligation. You don't need to purchase hydrogen from us. You don't need to do anything if you choose not to. You can choose to join and listen in and see what everyone's doing and be a part of it and never partake or transact with us. Nor does it cost anything to join. And the reason we try to make it so easy is because we understand that we need to bring everybody to the table. And when you start adding barriers, liability, cost, obligation, it doesn't make you want to sit at the table. So our goal with making it easy to join the JPA was really for us to be able to have a conversation with all these transit authorities. We all have a public sector background. We've been in the public sector, and we think that there's an opportunity to push forward a public utility in a way that private utilities have really grabbed a hold of, for the For electricity, for us, it's Southern California, Edison. I think you might be in PG&E area, but there's no control for you on those costs. I mean, there's some, but there's really no control. That's one area that you really can't help residents is with their utility bills because they set those costs. They work on what their rates are going to be. And this is going to impact electrification because you will be dependent on those costs of what it's going to cost per kilogram to charge your buses. So for First Public Hydrogen, it really is the opportunity to put this capability of being a utility into the hands of the public. And that's part of the reason we named ourselves First Public Hydrogen. So the checklist in front of you, I pointed out the three important factors, but it really is simple. It starts with this conversation here today, addressing any questions that you may have. The second portion of this would be to approve a resolution to join our JPA. And from there, First Public Hydrogen, our board would also approve a resolution to accept you as a member. And then finally, we have a congratulations, we're partnered together. But that really is just the first step. From there, we will take time to understand your needs, what you're looking for, working with your staff, working with your team, to understand what is it you're hopeful to do with hydrogen, what are some of your pain points as a transit authority, and where can we help? Next slide, please. So our ask here today is to join us. Give us a shot at figuring this out. We know that we hope that it comes at a very low barrier for you to join us. But we will come back to you with pricing. We will come back to you and explain what we are able to do, what price point we're able to do it, and see if it makes sense for your agency. Next slide, please. We've already partnered with a number of folks in the private sector as well, because we understand both sides are going to be needed. These are just a few folks that we've been working with. Next slide, please. And finally, we end with our contact information, but Paul and I are happy to answer any questions that you may have about the agency.
Okay, does anyone, I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, who has so far participated, the different agencies, similar to who we are?
Yes, so we have.
Do you have a list of those?
We do. So we've spoken to just about everyone who will listen to us. We presented last month to the Antelope Valley Transit Authority. We've presented as well to Foothill Transit, both of which have received and filed, which it sounds like we're doing today, to bring back to their board an approval at their next meeting. But we did have Roland Water District that joined last week. And we're hopeful that we'll continue to have various agencies joining, but we're more than happy to share a list of everyone that we've talked to.
Okay, thank you. Okay, yes.
The use of the word off-takers, I haven't heard that before. Is that synonymous with customers?
It's synonymous with customers. We envision that the off-takers would, and we use that to encompass everyone, but we imagine that the ports are going to have a demand, transit authorities are going to have a demand, municipal fleets, as well as stationary power. So having it work either in tangent or as a battery for taking facilities off grid.
Okay, Paul mentioned $4 to $9 per kilogram, and you both mentioned it right now. It's $30 per kilogram if you just have one vendor somewhere remotely. On your website, it talks about the Department of Energy within a decade wanting it to be $1 per kilogram. Can you talk about that?
We can. I think it's ambitious, the $1 to kilogram, and quite honestly, I don't know that it necessarily needs to be $1 or that it'll get there. What our goals are, we tend to be more realistic. We want it to be cheaper than diesel, and we want it to be cheaper than charging those buses. And so when we're looking at our comparisons and what our target pricing is, the $6 to $9 that Paul referenced, that gets us there. And that truly is our goal. And we understand that we can continue to drive that price down with things like LCFS credits. And as the technology gets better and more cost effective, very similar to solar, it was really expensive to start, but has since gotten cheaper. We anticipate the same thing.
You mentioned at the start of your presentation that there's uncertainty with a lot of federal, along with a lot of other federal funding sources these days. But in your industry of hydrogen, do you get the sense that the new federal government administration is just gonna put a hammer on the whole thing? Or are they have their feelers out, or are they saying, oh, no, you guys are gonna be good, we love you?
The sense that we're getting from the federal level is I don't know that California is going to get any money. It seems very unlikely from what we've seen that the Arches Hub is not going to get funded. Now, that has not been formalized, that has only been speculative, but that's what we're preparing for, and that's what we imagine the administration is going to do. But that does not impact us. And the reason that it does not impact us is we're working more at a local level. So we understand that there are still transit authorities that have either buses on order or future buses planned. There's also some stationary power demand that's also either been ordered or working outside of funding from the federal government. And so our goal is to continue to work with those agencies to get them the hydrogen at the price that makes sense. And so that includes working with production sites that may or may not depend on federal funding. If that federal funding isn't there, it's going to be the production sites that aren't dependent on that funding. But we've worked on both sides to ensure that if that funding goes away, there's still an ecosystem to be had, and we do believe that there is.
So state funding, is there a chance that will go up with the state trying to fill the gap for the loss of federal funding? What does the state tell your industry about its support or future support for you?
The state is supportive of hydrogen and supportive of the efforts. They worked to really get Arches off the ground and as a hub, and so we anticipate there'll still be some level of support for Arches. But what we've been saying to the state is really, we don't need the state to fund us. We need the state to fund you guys. We need the state to fund the buses that are coming online. Let us take care of getting the fuel and getting the fuel to a good price, but continue the funding that you have for transit agencies. And we anticipate at a federal level, transit agencies will continue to get funded through federal funds. That's what we need for us to succeed. Is let's fund the demand and we'll get the production there.
Thank you both very much.
Of course.
Yeah, very interesting.
Great information, but I have a couple of questions for Mr. Tuwiki.
Of course.
Sir, are you gonna be bringing, I mean, this is exciting, but a lot of times it sounds great. You know how the old people say, it sounds too good to be true. I know we're talking electricity, then the price is gonna go up. We're dealing with this. Eventually, the price will go up. My question to you is, are you, as we're getting closer to this issue, are you gonna be bringing recommendation to the board?
Yeah, so the results of this conversation today, I'll come back, I'll meet with Carl, we'll talk about it, we'll meet with the executive team and talk about it as well. And I think what we'll do is make a recommendation to the full board based on our conversation today. So the questions that you guys have today, that's gonna help us understand what direction we want to go in. The other thing I wanted to mention, and she kind of talked about this, but the JPA is available for all public.
Yeah.
All public, so cities, counties,
Yeah.
everyone, right?
That's
And
how it works for everyone.
yeah, and the big ones, right? The big players in the game right now are the transit agencies,
Yeah.
because we have this regulation that's requiring us to go zero emissions.
Amazing. And just one question to you folks. The relationship Lancaster, the city of industry,
It really came out of a mutual need. So both cities were looking at hydrogen aggressively, and we recognized that the system was broken. That the large guys, quite honestly, are ripping everyone off. When you go to the pump and it costs $30 to fill a vehicle, for reference, a light duty vehicle is $150 right now at the pump to fill with hydrogen. Why? There should be no reason when we're talking with producers and the price of production can be much lower. And so recognizing that need, both industry and Lancaster said, let's work together and let's bring other public agencies to the table. And let's do this ourselves. Let's work outside of the private network to be able to address these problems. And so First Public Hydrogen came out of that conversation, but it's not new. There's other agencies such as SCAPA for Southern California that brings together various JPAs and public industries to essentially, there's power in numbers. So bringing together the numbers to accomplish a goal.
And if I may, before that, this all originated because of our mayor. He went to go visit one of our sister cities over in Japan called Name. They're in Fukushima, and saw all the wondrous things that wonderful things that they were doing with hydrogen, fueling their buses, powering up their residentials and commercial, and came back home and was like, man, I would love to do something that they're doing right now. Japan is so advanced in this sector. So we were very interested in stationary power, and as Alexis touched upon, we worked with some private vendors, and they were giving us some prices that were just, quite frankly, unsustainable. So we just thought that we as local government can really be the solution to this.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Carl, you have some.
Yeah, just I thank you all for coming. I think they've actually, they've well defined
Mhm.
the problem that our industry has. Whether this is the specific solution or not for us remains to be seen. We reviewed this with our general counsel. The issues of liability that were already mentioned were something that was keen for us to resolve. Generally, JPA structures, you share everything, including liability. Governance was an issue for us because while there'd be a seat on an advisory committee, we wouldn't actually have a voting seat. And so, whether this is, and then other questions that have come up is how does this work? We already have a community power aggregator in the Central Coast region, stretching from Santa Barbara up to Santa Cruz, 3CE Community Power. Is this something that they could or should be doing regionally with us? So there's more to be known. I'm not saying no at all, just that we need to do a little more work, and we are slow walking the hydrogen due to all of the issues. MST in 12 rounds of federal funding for low and no emission grants have not been successful. We're not alone. San Francisco Muni has not been successful. And I was complaining about this at a meeting, saying it's an issue with small operators and rural operators. We're not getting a cut of this money. And then San Francisco Muni said, what are you talking about? We've not got $1 out of that program either. So I called San Francisco Muni a small rural city. That must be the issue. California does not get its share of federal funding by any stretch of the imagination, and as mentioned, that might get worse within this next administration. However, our plans are way beyond this administration, so we're continuing to plan. We think hydrogen is part of our zero emission transition, and especially in the Salinas Valley, the distances that we have to travel from Paso Robles to Gilroy. Battery electric, it's questionable whether battery electric is going to help us get those types of routes covered, and hydrogen is likely the source for that. We're still trying to outfit our facilities just to be able to have hydrogen. We still have to figure out the dispensing and actually get some money for actual buses. So more to come. And I think this is on the right track. They certainly, I think I've identified a need in the marketplace and the ability to share resources. And if a transit operator is producing more hydrogen than they need and they can sell it and put it into the market, I know transit operators today that are doing that. And I know other transit operators who don't have enough hydrogen. So there is an imbalance in the marketplace that this is attempting to fill, and staff will continue to do research and work with you all, and probably not going to be first in on this. We'll see what our partners at Foothill or Sunline or AC Transit, who are much further ahead in the hydrogen sphere than us, and we'll watch and wait to see what they do. I think is staff strategy at this point.
Yeah, Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Well, Mr. Sadori brings some good information, but you know, as government demands that we get electric buses, and now we're going into another power source. Is this government waste, or, I mean, are we gonna be having all this electrical investment? We can't go as far as hydrogen, but I don't understand.
Is it sustainable?
I'm
Yeah.
not sure if the question, is the investments in battery electric a waste because we're going to go to
Yeah,
hydrogen?
yeah.
I think many in our industry, us so far, we're included, is that batteries are a bridge to hydrogen. Batteries are available today in limited capacity,
Yeah.
get us where we need to go for the short term, and allows us to decrease carbon emissions today more cost effectively than hydrogen. And when the market develops, the issue with hydrogen has been as described. The market's not there yet. The volume of hydrogen, the distribution networks, they're too expensive, too costly.
Yeah.
And our operating revenues aren't matching the ability for us to easily convert 100% to hydrogen.
Mhm.
Which is really interesting because I know that we have been having this discussion about hydrogen ever since I've been on this board, and that's been
Yeah.
a while.
There's a maxim,
Yeah.
and this is not to deride this at all,
No.
but a colleague of mine at another transit agency says hydrogen is the fuel of the future, and it always will be. I don't think that's the case. I think that there is a role for hydrogen.
Mhm.
We just have to get
cost
to that
prohibitive.
sweet spot where it's cost effective, and this sounds like a solution to help us get there when it's right for us.
Yeah.
So,
And if I may, we come from an area that's really had to be scrappy. We're in the northernmost part of Los Angeles County. We more than often don't get our fair share from LA County. But we've been one of those cities that's been first in. So we were first in for CCAs. So if you can imagine your CCA currently, this is essentially hydrogen for CCAs.
right.
Statewide. But we were first in with Antelope Valley Transit going all electric. They have seen a profit from that, from LCFS credits. And so although being first in has seemed scary, it has been extremely profitable for both our city and our transit agency. So I do encourage, to consider that. And in order for us to move forward, we need everybody to come to the table because it truly is having everyone at the table that we have more power to address these needs and concerns.
And I also want to be clear that we don't want to make this like a battery electric versus hydrogen thing. I think they both complement each other, and at the end of the day, we want you guys to do what you guys do best, which is to move people. And California has really ambitious climate and decarbonization goals. So we believe like hydrogen has to be part of the solution, not the solution, but part of it.
And not in a wasteful way. We, more than anything, we are not here to waste funds. If the pricing isn't there for you guys, that's also why we try to make this as low risk as possible. We don't expect you to do something that would be costly for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis and Paul. Yes, we were kind of at a time constraint, so I just
hold
want to
my
make sure
question.
quickly. No,
It's
no.
for Gordon and or Norman and Carl.
You can get us after the meeting.
Yeah,
That's all
just
right.
because we still have one more
That's another item.
large item. Thank you both so
Of
much for coming
course.
today, and we
Thank you.
appreciate the information.
Happy to answer any additional questions afterwards.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, thank you. All right, let's move on to item number 4.3, which is receive surf busway rapid transit project updates. And that's Lisa.
Yes, good morning, Chair and committee members. I'm happy to present some SURF project updates to you this morning. I will try to be brief and respect the time constraints that we have. So on March 21st, Carl and I attended the California Transportation Commission meeting in Long Beach, California, to receive an allocation of $25 million from the Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program. This is the final step that we needed from the CTC to allow us to move into construction. And those funds come with timely use of funds constraints where we do need to be under construction and award a contract to be able to meet those timely use of funds requirements. So on your board agenda later on this morning is a recommendation to award a construction contract to the construction management general contractor who we've had on board for a number of years now. $59.2 million for the construction component only. The totality of the project is somewhere towards the $100 million mark, which includes all of the environmental, the design, final design, redesign due to the coastal development permit that we got, as well as construction management oversight. You approved an amendment to the Accenture contract last month for the construction management oversight. They'll be the ones that are making sure the contractor is doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then also anticipated costs in relation to the environmental mitigations imposed by the coastal development permit. So that makes up the entirety of the project. So we are now ready to begin some early work on the project. Should the board award a contract later on today, we'll be checking ground conditions, making sure everything's where it's supposed to be, or if something's there that's not supposed to be, we can check those ground conditions. We're verifying safe access points to the work site, protecting plants and wildlife species. We've done some nesting bird surveys to make sure that we're not impacting nesting birds. We'll be doing some seed and soil collection for replanting on our mitigation site, which is at the Fort Ord Dunes State Park. We'll also be doing some vegetation management, including tree trimming and removal. We will be surveying, mapping for utilities, additional site conditions, detour routes, etc., and establishing safe work zones. We're also going to be sharing all of this information with our partners and on social media. In fact, last week or the week before, I think it was last week, we put up flyers, door hangers in the area of Palm and Del Monte in Marina, just to be really good neighbors and to let people know what to anticipate. And we had some very positive feedback when we did that. We also had some questions in the local paper a couple weeks ago about soil and ballast testing results that we had conducted almost a year ago. We've included a summary of the soil and ballast testing that we did. The ballast is that rock material that is underneath the railroad tracks and the railroad ties. So the results came back better than what we had anticipated, in that it is entirely appropriate to reuse the material on site, either as a residential or commercial reuse, but we're neither, so it's entirely appropriate to reuse the ballast, as it is a requirement of the coastal development permit anyway, and then the soil as well can be reused on site without risk to, the construction workers' health. So you have that information available to you. And then finally, I wanted to mention something that the American Public Transportation Association likes to convey when these big projects are in construction and delivered to our communities, is that they do contribute to a skilled job workforce, and these projects are generational improvements to our transit infrastructure and help to improve the economic area of the region, as well as providing better social mobility. So with that, I'll stop and answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, I'll open it up to the committee. Yes.
Did construction costs, you've mentioned 59.2, did they go up or did they go down with the new design of using the railroad almost entirely?
The construction costs, solely construction costs, went down for the most part as a result of the coastal development permit, due largely to a reduction of retaining walls that were needed. When we were closer to the edge of the corridor, we were closer to hills and what have you. So now that we're more towards the middle, that reduced the retaining walls.
What's the amount of the reduction approximately?
About 50%,
Wait,
give or take.
I'm sorry.
That would be
I don't know. What did
The
you say?
reduction, that was a reduction of 50% of the retaining walls. What was the reduction in cost?
Oh,
Yeah, I was like, what?
I was having to do a quick translation. Great.
I was like, oh, good, it's only gonna cost us
Lisa,
50.
Carl,
translator.
Carl knows Lisa Ease. That's a good question. I would say, maybe I'd have to get back to you. I don't want to.
100,000, a million?
Oh, God, no. In the millions.
Yeah.
Less than 10, more than one.
Okay, yeah, 1 to 10 million. That's
So, I would say several million would be a good guess.
I would,
it
in
is-
my
That's-
mind, I was
that's
thinking 5,
substantial.
but I'd have to double check with
1
the
to
team.
10 is all I'm gonna write
Okay.
down.
Hoping
Several
closer to
would be
10.
accurate. I think it's 10.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's 10.
Several, 5.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else have any questions? I know we're gonna talk about this again, so. Anybody else have any questions?
Is there
I do, as far as the timing, when would the checking of ground conditions start? And when would all those other things you said start?
Yeah, good question. So checking ground conditions, we can do that at any time. For some of the tree removals, that will be starting on Wednesday at the 5th Street Station area. And then once we get into the heavy construction, probably won't be until July, August. Remember, we need to mobilize the contractor utilizing the site at the TMC property to the north of us near 5th Street Station, south of the 8th Street Bridge. And so, setting up things like the construction offices, bringing equipment on board, it does take time. So there's about 3 months they need to submit a whole bunch of stuff to us, as well as bringing in their equipment and just setting up shop, essentially.
So by December, would you have a good amount of the nesting bird protecting species? You gotta hurry up and do stuff before they nest again next year, right?
Oh, yeah, the trees will be, the ones that are being removed will be removed by then, and the ones that are being protected will have fencing around them.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just protect those little.
Nesting
Yeah.
birds.
And while we have it on our item here, as Lisa mentioned, midsummer we'll be seeing real construction activity and offices and large equipment moving in. So what a great time to do a groundbreaking ceremony. So the groundbreak, even though we're going to start work on Wednesday doing some work, we're going to do a groundbreaking ceremony, June 28th, Saturday, 2 p.m. Why? Because that's the day we could get Jimmy Panetta and John Laird in the same place at the same time. And they were very instrumental in getting us a lot of money for this project. So that is the date and time. We'll announce it again at in our full board meeting, because this is on the agenda, but I'm trying to.
What was the time again?
2 p.m.
2 o'clock.
at 5th Street Station, June 28th. It's a Saturday. So.
Okay.
Sandwiches.
We'll have, you'll be.
You won't go hungry.
Okay.
So the
You
other.
can fill a backpack full of sandwiches.
Yeah.
Hey.
The other thing I should add on to my comments about some of the early work, some of the first order of business will be the removal of the tracks and the railroad ties. And then reuse of the, ballast material, and the tracks themselves, because they're steel, they're going to get recycled back into the American market, which is a good thing from perspective of tariffs. There are a lot of projects that require Build America, Buy America, and so having more steel in the American market is a good thing. And then those rail ties are most of them will be recycled to landscape supply companies. Those that are too far gone will be moved to a facility that accepts treated wood waste. Regen Monterey accepts treated wood waste. And any splintered material that may be missed from the mechanical movement, crews will follow and pick it up by hand.
When will that removal happen?
Probably
Steel rails to
more
the cons-
towards the September
Oh, we
timeframe.
can, yeah.
If we can get in there earlier, we will.
Okay.
And you decided not to do the groundbreaking at Palm because it's too little space.
There's not very good parking. It's not terribly flat. It's just, we have total control of the Fifth Street station area, and there's adequate parking. There's some flat space. We can put up tents so we can make it a better, logistically, it's just a better location for us.
Thank you. Chair.
I would like to, if I may, thank you, Lisa. We're going to talk about this again in open session, but I would like to go back, if I may, before we close this meeting today, back to the consent agenda, since now we have a quorum, which is item.
Madam Chair, before you do that, I'd recommend taking this out to public comment.
Okay, I'm sorry.
What did he say? Michael would like to public comment on the presentations.
Yes, is there any public thanks, Michael. Any public comment on any of the presentations that we had today? The hydrogen authority presentation and also the SURF project. There's no one in here. I see no one on Zoom. So I will close public comment. Sorry about that, Michael.
And we'll file those reports as received for
Yes.
both, the hydrogen folks and
Yes.
from Lisa, and we can move on to the consent agenda.
Yes, please. Okay, so has everyone had an opportunity? Consent agenda item number 3.1, approved minutes of the Board Operations Performance Committee on February 10th. Do I have any?
So moved.
Okay. And second, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Okay.
then that
Brings us to
closes our meeting for today,
adjourn.
and we are adjourned.
There
So
you
let's
go.
give it a few minutes.
Second. There
There
we
we
go.
go.
Doesn't that feel good?
It
Doesn't that
does.
make you feel a whole lot better?
I have a friend.
apologize. I'm sorry. I didn't realize.
Oh, that's all right.